His mistress stole their money, and he claimed he didn't know her. Until she received a phone call. Dear viewers, welcome to our channel. Subscribe to receive more stories every day. Olivia sat frozen at the dining table. Her fingers curled tightly around the edge of her untouched coffee mug. The morning headlines screamed across the screen of her phone. Business tycoon Mark Reynolds victim of elaborate financial scam. Mistress disappears with millions. The story had gone viral overnight. Reports claimed Mark's secret lover, Vanessa Carter, had siphoned nearly $10 million from their shared accounts before vanishing without a trace. It was all anyone could talk about. And yet, the only thing more shocking than the betrayal itself was Mark's reaction. She was never my mistress, he had said. His voice filled with indignant outrage when reporters hounded him outside their estate. I don't know who this woman is. Every word of it. Olivia knew better. She had seen them together. Subtle touches at corporate events, lingering glances when they thought no one was looking. She had spent months convincing herself that she was overthinking things, that the whispers about Mark's affair were nothing more than cruel gossip. But now Vanessa was gone, and so was their money. She turned her gaze to the living room, where Mark paced furiously. His phone pressed to his ear. His lawyer, his publicist, his financial advisors. One by one, he cycled through them, issuing commands like a general at war. His voice was sharp, almost panicked. Find her. I don't care how you do it. Just find her. Olivia swallowed hard. This wasn't the man she married. This wasn't the confident, smooth-talking businessman she had fallen in love with. This was a man losing control. And she couldn't bring herself to feel sorry for him. She stood, walking slowly toward him. He ended the call just as she reached his side, his fingers pinching the bridge of his nose. She stole from us, Olivia, he said, his voice tight with barely contained fury. Everything. The business is in chaos. Do you know what that means? She didn't answer. It means, he continued, stepping closer, that we need to put on a united front. If people think our marriage is falling apart over this, the board will lose confidence. Investors will pull out. We'll be ruined. A bitter laugh threatened to bubble in her throat. We, she echoed. You mean you'll be ruined? Because I sure as hell never signed up to be part of a financial scandal. Mark's jaw clenched. That's not fair. Isn't it? She shot back. How long, Mark? How long have you been lying to me? His silence was her answer. A slow numbness settled over her chest. He wasn't going to confess. He wasn't going to break down and beg for her forgiveness. He was going to keep lying, even when the entire world knew the truth. Olivia, he said, his tone shifting to something softer. She fooled me too. I thought she was a legitimate consultant. She manipulated me. Her lips curled in disgust. He was really going to play the victim. Before she could respond, his phone rang again. Another crisis, she assumed. Another desperate attempt to cover his tracks. But when she looked at the screen, her heart stopped. Unknown number. And then, before either of them could react, Olivia's own phone buzzed on the table. The same number. Her breath hitched. A cold shiver ran down her spine. Mark grabbed his phone first, answering sharply. Who is this? Silence. Mr. Reynolds. This is Special Agent Carter with the FBI. We need to speak with your wife. The air thickened between them. Olivia's hand trembled as she reached for her phone. FBI. What the hell was happening? Mark's face paled, his Adam's apple bobbing as he tried to regain his composure. Why? He demanded. Why do you need to speak to my wife? The voice on the other end didn't waver. Mrs. Reynolds. Are you there? Olivia exchanged a look with Mark. His expression shifted, subtle but telling. A flicker of something that looked suspiciously like fear. She swallowed. Then, with an almost unnatural calm, She pressed the phone to her ear. "This is Olivia Reynolds." Brief pause. "Mrs. Reynolds," the agent said, his tone measured. "We have reason to believe that Vanessa Carter was not acting alone in this scheme. We believe there's another player involved, one who has been orchestrating financial fraud for years." Olivia's stomach twisted. Mark's hand tightened into a fist at his side. And then the agent's next words changed everything. "We have substantial evidence that your husband is complicit in this operation. We need your help to bring him down." For a long moment, Olivia didn't move, didn't breathe. Her mind raced. Vanessa had betrayed Mark, stolen from him, set him up. But if what the FBI was saying was true, then Mark was no victim. He was a criminal. She turned to look at him, at the man she had shared a bed with for years. His entire demeanor had shifted. He wasn't panicking anymore. He was calculating. He was reading her reaction, trying to anticipate her next move. She knew what he wanted. He wanted her to protect him, to cover for him. But something inside her snapped. She wouldn't. Not this time. Mark had already taken everything from her. Her trust, her dignity, her peace of mind. He would not take her integrity. Her hand tightened around the phone. "What do you need me to do?" she said. Mark's face drained of all color. And in that moment, Olivia Reynolds chose her side. Mark's expression was unreadable, but his clenched fists and the twitch in his jaw betrayed him. Olivia had seen him talk his way out of countless difficult situations before, but this time was different. This time she held the power. Her pulse pounded in her ears as she listened to the FBI agent's voice on the line. "We need your cooperation, Mrs. Reynolds. If you're willing to assist us, we can ensure your protection." Protection. The word lingered in the air, heavy with unspoken meaning. She wasn't naive. If Mark was involved in financial fraud, it meant danger. It meant powerful people, hidden transactions, and a network of deception deeper than she could imagine. But she didn't hesitate. "I'll do it," she said, her voice steady. Mark lunged toward her, his eyes burning with desperation. "Olivia." She held up a hand, silencing him with a single glare. She had spent years being the supportive wife, the quiet, patient woman in the background of his success. That woman was gone. "Where do we start?" she asked the agent. There was a pause. Then, with chilling certainty, he said, "We need access to your husband's accounts, his private ledgers, any information you have on his offshore transactions." Mark's breathing became ragged. "Olivia," he said, his voice a low warning, "don't do this." She ignored him. "I can get them," she told the agent. "Good," the agent replied. "We'll send an encrypted link for you to upload the files. Do it within the next 24 hours. The line went dead. Silence. Mark shoved his phone into his pocket, his lips curling in fury. "You have no idea what you've just done." Olivia crossed her arms. "I think I know exactly what I've done." "You don't understand," he seethed. "These people, they don't play fair. If I go down, I won't be the only one." She narrowed her eyes. Was that a threat? His lips parted slightly, as if he wanted to deny it, but no words came out. It didn't matter. She saw the truth all over his face. Mark had spent their entire marriage believing she was too soft, too fragile to ever betray him, that she would always stand by his side no matter what. He had underestimated her. She turned on her heel. "I need to pack." His fingers clamped around her wrist. "Where do you think you're going?" She ripped her arm free. "Somewhere you can't manipulate me anymore." And then she walked away. She didn't sleep that night. Instead, she sat in the dim glow of her laptop screen, heart pounding, fingers trembling over the keyboard. The files were exactly where she thought they'd be, hidden under a fake consulting firm that Mark had once boasted about being a perfect cover. It had all been right in front of her. Millions funneled into offshore accounts. Shell companies linked to international wire fraud. Secret transfers disguised as charity donations. And Vanessa, there were emails. Hundreds of them. They weren't just lovers. They were partners. Mark knew exactly who she was. He had orchestrated the entire thing with her. Until she betrayed him first. Olivia's stomach churned. How much of their life had been a lie? She clenched her jaw and uploaded every file into the encrypted link the FBI had sent her. Then she shut her laptop and waited. By morning the house was in chaos. Mark had called his lawyers, his publicist. He was scrambling, making frantic calls, trying to control the narrative. But Olivia could see the cracks forming. Then the inevitable happened. The knock on the door. 3 men in dark suits. Badges flashed. FBI. Mark Reynolds, the lead agent said. His voice smooth but firm. You're under arrest for conspiracy to commit fraud, wire fraud, and obstruction of justice. Mark barely flinched. I want my lawyer, he said coldly. Olivia stood in the hallway, watching it unfold. Watching him. He didn't fight. He didn't beg. But as they placed the cuffs around his wrists, he turned to her and smiled. Her breath caught in her throat. Something was wrong. Her phone rang. Unknown number. She slowly answered. Hello. A smooth, unfamiliar voice spoke. Mrs. Reynolds. It's a shame you got involved in this. You should have stayed quiet. Cold dread coiled in her chest. The line clicked dead. Mark was still smiling as the agents dragged him toward the door. She realized too late. He had planned for this. And she had just become a target. Olivia's hands trembled as she lowered the phone. Her mind racing with 1,000 thoughts. Voice. That cold, calculating voice. She had no doubt that it belonged to one of Mark's associates. The very people the FBI wanted to take down. She had expected rage from Mark when she betrayed him. She had expected him to lash out, to make desperate moves to save himself. But not this. Not that chilling smile as he was led away in handcuffs. Not the silent warning in his eyes. He had planned for this. And now she was in real danger. She turned to the lead FBI agent standing in her living room. They called me, she whispered. His expression hardened. Who? I don't know, she stammered. Man. He said I should have stayed quiet. The agent's jaw clenched. That confirms it. Mark wasn't just laundering money. He was working with people dangerous enough to silence anyone who gets in their way. A sharp pang of fear cut through her. I want protection, she said quickly. I want witness protection. The agent nodded. We were already planning on it. Olivia exhaled, her mind spinning. She had no choice now. If Mark had planned for his own arrest, she had to stay one step ahead. And she had a dangerous idea how to do that. The safe house was quiet. Olivia sat alone in the dimly lit kitchen. Her phone pressed to her ear. She had used a burner phone, one given to her by the FBI. Secure line. And yet, she still felt a tight knot of fear as she made the call. Rang once. Then, finally, a soft chuckle answered. I was wondering when you'd call, Vanessa said. Olivia's grip tightened on the phone. You set him up, Olivia said, skipping any pleasantries. But he knew you would. Long pause. Then Vanessa sighed. He did. Silence stretched between them. Vanessa's voice softened. I had to, Olivia. He was going to do the same to me. I just moved first. Olivia swallowed hard. And now I'm a target because of both of you. Beat of silence. I can help you, Vanessa said. Olivia didn't trust her. Not fully. But she was out of options. The meeting took place in a secluded parking garage at midnight. FBI agents surrounded the area. Hidden in the shadows, weapons drawn. Olivia stepped forward, heart pounding, as Vanessa emerged from the darkness. a slim briefcase in hand. Vanessa smirked. I brought a little gift. She tossed the briefcase onto the hood of Olivia's car. What's in it? Olivia asked. Vanessa's eyes glinted. The final nail in Mark's coffin. The agent standing beside Olivia opened the case. Inside, documents, hard drives, proof. Not just of Mark's crimes, but the entire network. Locations. Counts filled with dirty money. Vanessa leaned in, lowering her voice. They wanted me dead too. I figured. If I was going down, I'd take them with me. Olivia stared at her, trying to understand. So why give it to me? A shadow crossed Vanessa's face. Because I was stupid enough to believe he actually loved me. And for the first time, Olivia believed her. The fall of a king. The evidence was airtight. Within days, arrests were made. Mark's entire empire collapsed overnight. He had thought he was untouchable. That his connections, his planning, his manipulations would keep him safe. But Olivia had taken him down. She sat in the courtroom, her hands steady, her chin high as the verdict was read. Guilty. Mark turned to look at her one final time. And for the first time ever, there was no confidence, no smug smirk, no control, just defeat. She leaned forward, her voice a whisper only he could hear. You should have never underestimated me. And then she walked out free. Dear viewers, thank you for watching. If you like this story, please subscribe to our channel to receive more stories every day. Share with us what you think of this story and tell us where you're watching from.